And let's remind you about the portal by the Kenya Ports Authority. And this is the information portal called Captain Cargo, Captain Kargo. And you find this on captaincargo.kpa.co.ke. Today, we are looking at export procedures.
Yes, we are. So looking at documentations that are necessary for exports and how it is that you will get your stuff from where you're going, or rather where you are, to where the stuff is going. All right. So now we had talked about some of these important details. Now we start with, the arrangement of a booking space. So you need to book a space and your agent then is issued with a shipping order. That order then now goes to KPA and it's sent in terms of what is called cargo information. It is now lodged with KRA so that the bill that you need to pay basically is generated. And KRA then passes an entry and issues a release when that payment has been made. So we're looking at the process of some of these things to get your precious cargo on the way this morning and what Captain Cargo gives in terms of information of how seamless the process actually is.
Remember, you can just get all this information if you log on to www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Kargo.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Ice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
Conversation continues. What do you make of what Ali Sohome has said?
Well, I think it's very clear that the leanings have a lot more to do with character as opposed to the real because if we want to look beyond this, then that means clearly there was a rift way before and any of this happened, before the handshake. So in terms of stability, it seems to me that it maybe wasn't very stable. But I think that just what she said, something that really struck me about what she said, if there was consultation in terms of the moves that were made within the party, that the more or less would be okay with the way things were carried out. If there was consultation, if you told us what was going on, if you really made it clear from a party point of view that, from a leadership point of view within the party, that this is the direction in which you were taking and we're all included in this, perhaps it would have been better.
If I remember correctly, there was a meeting of senators first in State House with the president, the party leader, and then there was a meeting of the members of the National Assembly in State House with the party leader. Some senators opted not to go for that meeting.
As did some members of parliament.
Yep.
But you also hear what the complaint was, that it was not a consultative meeting. It was more of an information. This is what is going to happen. This is what we decided. This is what we're doing. No consultation according to them.
And they knew about this before they went for the meeting.
It's leadership.
This is the leader saying this is how it's going to be, guys.
They were crying for leadership. They got leadership. If I remember correctly, during that time when the Tangatanga was going around the country, they were crying for leadership. They were saying they don't hear from the party leader or what direction.
And then they heard.
And then they heard, and they still did not like it.
But ask
they
yourself,
wanted to be
this really very simple question. Okay. Up until everything that I hear about the passion with which it is spoken, they're protesting the change. Up until that point, they were happy to complain about their leader. They were happy to mention him in innuendos. And then...
Or outrightly insult him.
Yes, outrightly. Then the very thing that they said they wanted happened. Lo and behold.
Leadership.
Now, the narrative changed. Because it's the same person. I am arguing that the possibility was that the change, they didn't expect it and then they didn't want it.
And in the manner in which they came, they didn't anticipate it at all.
So the handshake simply just helped muddy the waters according to their narrative.
This
and
just exposes the problems that we have with
there.
our political parties in this country. Early Sohome is talking about the structures of the party not working. If you just listen to her, that's what she's talking
Who's
about.
supposed to make it work?
The structure of the party not working. The members and the leadership of the party.
When you have a political party designed around an ideology, which is the way it's supposed to be, that's the problem. When you have a political party that then is around an individual, that's the problem.
In this case, it was designed around individuals.
It was around individuals.
And then
It
you see
wasn't one
the
individual,
cracks are forming not because of these people suddenly, but it is because the craft of the party from the very beginning was flawed.
But even
That's the issue.
even the support of that craft. Did you hear anyone complaining about these things
At
early
that
on?
point,
No,
No.
because they saw that
Coming
it
to
was
the
going
top of
be
the
to
hour,
their
though, it's
advantage.
now 8 o'clock. The conversation continues. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM.
Right at Eastern
Kisumu.
Bypass Interchange on Mombasa Road, it is bumper to bumper, almost headache-inducing from what we're being told. Normal traffic there all the way from Cabanas. It is moving, but it is moving painfully slowly this Monday. We expect that to be a lot of things to do, as it is the exact end of the month falls on a Monday and everybody's out and about, so we know that that's going to cause some problems today. Juja Road traffic is still looking pretty good. We don't have much of an issue. It's a bit clogged up right in industrial area, and that's affecting traffic then on Jogo Road as you head to the City Stadium roundabout. Coming out of there into the CBD, however, you shouldn't have too much of a headache. It should be all right. Off of Thika Road into the CBD as well is fine. We know that because of the expressway that's being worked on, Uhuru Highway is going to have some problems for the coming days. And we already see evidence of that between Nyeri Stadium roundabout all the way to Westlands. You're going to have to sit it out there and be extremely patient, guys. Or, here's even better idea, leave earlier. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
2.5
Situation Room,
minutes after
the only
8
way
o'clock.
to
Thank you
start
very
your
much
day.
for tuning in to Spice FM on KTN Home, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. We live stream this show, The Situation Room, which is Kenya's biggest conversation, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Spice FM KE is our channel and our page, and you can find us all over there. So for the next hour as well, we will be live on KTN Home. Let's shift gears and come back to what's happening with the management of COVID-19 in the country. Now, of course, the issue now is not about beds. We have moved from beds to testing capacity to all those things to face mask. We moved from that into how much?
But does it actually mean that those problems were solved, or have we just moved
Of course not.
No.
We have shifted our focus into, so how much were they costing us? Who was involved in the procurement? How was that procurement done? Did we get value for money? Did we actually even get anything at all? Right? So we see that there's investigations that are going on at the Senate. The president has ordered the investigative agencies, and one would assume this would be the DCI and the EACC, to conclude investigations within 21 days. And when we were talking about this earlier during the newspaper review at about 6:40, we were saying that, when you give about 21 days, you are rushing a process that may need to get into the audit of the procedures that were followed. But we heard from the Senate on Friday, the suspended CEO of KEMSA, went to the Senate and said, you know what, I was receiving instructions from the higher-ups. And the higher-ups in this case, he mentioned the PS and the CS in the Ministry of Health. We know that the CS has talked about this previously and said there's cartels that run this particular ministry. The people who are supposed to have been receiving some of these donations, for example, that were brought into the country, some of the equipment that is supposed to be going to manage the healthcare system, are frontline workers, and these are the healthcare workers. Among them, of course, the doctors. And the Kenya Medical Association has been speaking out about this particular matter. So now let's bring in the president of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Onyino Were. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Daktari, you have, of course, seen what's unfolding now. We are talking about COVID millionaires. And just from the onset, when you heard of the COVID millionaires, when you started seeing the stories emerging of what is happening with the Jack Ma donations at the JKIA, what was happening with the procurement at KEMSA and in other counties at Afya House, what came to mind?
As a fraternity, we were really disappointed, and we were left shocked because all along during this pandemic, most of our members have actually been struggling with an issue of lack of quality personal protective equipment. And here we were in a situation where we got donations from the Jack Ma Foundation to help us mitigate some of these deficiencies that we did have. And here, all over the media, you see stories of how the donations and actually the funds allocated towards the COVID-19 pandemic have been not properly been accounted for. So as a fraternity, we were left very disappointed and shocked that even money allocated for such critical items can be spent in the manner that has been shared by the media in the last 2 weeks.
But looking at the operations of the health ministry, Dr. Were, would you really say that the medical fraternity was shocked? I mean, this is not the first time that we are seeing this kind of scandal emanating from Afya House or from the Ministry of Health or from the management of our healthcare system.
It's not the first time. We've had other scandals, and what we have proposed and suggested as the Kenya Medical Association is a reform agenda in most of the agencies that operate under the Ministry of Health, with a view of having them functional and being able to actually perform the mandate which they are formed. So, in as much as it's something that we have seen, we had the Afya 1, Afya 2 scandals, we thought that in such a time where the whole world is grappling with such a pandemic, this is not something that will be the funds allocated to sort out the issues of COVID-19 pandemic will also be treated in such a manner. So I know reforms have been ongoing in the Ministry of Health, although slow and painful. We've seen the cartels fighting back with same reforms. And our shock comes from the fact that this was not a normal scenario to be treated in the manner in which we have seen. So it's like it has been business as usual, despite the very trying times we find ourselves in.
I'm curious as to now, so there's certain things that have been asked to happen. We hear from the president 21 days since when he made this announcement for these investigations to take place. So let's look and say that this has happened and it's found that there's misappropriation of these funds that could essentially have taken care of quite a number of health workers, for example, would have maybe helped to manage the situation when it came to COVID in the country. Then what? From the KMA perspective, what then would that What then would that be able to produce?
From the KMA perspective, I think once those 21 days elapse and the investigative agencies are able to get to the bottom of this, and actually, if they find any of the officers who have been implicated, then culpable of the misuse of these funds, then I think what we'll expect as an association is they need to step down. And I think we'll have to consider having new leadership, especially in the dockets that have been affected, so that we can move forward and actually the ministry should be able to perform its function which is to ensure that everyone has access to safe, affordable, and quality healthcare in this country.
Will that cut it? Because you just a few minutes ago mentioned that, even with the reforms that you see, which are slow and painful, that we see that the cartels are fighting back. Would it cut it to have senior leadership within the ministry step down? If we have an internal rot in the ministry, is it just enough to say resign?
This is Africa and Kenya, to be specific, where we don't see people resigning or taking responsibility and actually shifting blame most of the time when issues of accountability of public funds come into play. So, of course, as an organization, we'll expect them to actually own up and step aside. But this should be guided by proper investigations being done by investigative agencies, so that the real culprits who are actually taking us back in time in terms of the fight for COVID-19 are actually brought to book. So, in as much as it's something that is not normal in our political space, I think it will be a step in the right direction if the leadership owns up that mistakes were made, and then we move forward towards correcting that mistake and putting systems in place that will not allow such a thing to happen in future. And of course, with that, as an association, we are willing to step in and give our professional input as we've been doing all along this COVID-19 pandemic, and to help the government better respond to the issues on the ground where our members are.
Beyond asking members who have been found culpable of certain misdeeds, beyond asking them to step down, is there anything else the association does?
Of course, that will leave for the Office of Public the judiciary to sort that out.
Actually, I wasn't going in that direction. I was asking if someone is a medical doctor, right, for instance, and you found them to be, they are found to be dishonest and untrustworthy with public funds, how then can you trust such a person with human lives?
Individuals are different. We all come from different households. We are raised differently, so you cannot blame an individual weakness of the whole fraternity. And of course, even in the medical space, we have mechanisms of ensuring our members are held accountable in terms of the code of practice, in terms when they are found guilty by a court of law, to have actually not been accountable with public funds. So if something like that happens and it affects one of our members, then they have to take personal responsibility. But that one, we cannot just base on hearsay. We need the investigative agency to do a proper job and actually get to the bottom of what the matter is.
It sounds like you want to leave this to just the investigative agencies, and the Kenya Medical Association itself will be just a spectator in this particular case. But it involves your mainstay. It involves the taking care of people's health. It involves people ensuring that they steal money that was meant to have gone to protect your healthcare workers, stealing money that would have helped the healthcare workers to take care of their patients. What else can the KMA do? And as opposed to just sitting back and saying, let's wait and see how these investigations unfold.
Of course, as part of the auditing process, KMA is willing to participate with the network that we have throughout the country and our members. We will be able either to correlate or confirm that we actually received these PPEs on the ground, that we actually, as part of the audit process, that money allocated for hiring of more healthcare workers, that on the ground we actually saw some healthcare workers being hired by the government to respond. So I think that is a role that we can play. And in the past, actually, Kenya Medical Association used to have a seat as part of the board of KEMSA. I know we lost that along the way, but I think this is the role as professionals we can play, because imagine I'm sitting on that board, or a member of KMA is sitting on that board. we cannot allow such a critical function or such critical items that we need for our members to be used in the way that we've been seeing being portrayed in the media in the last 2 weeks. So, of course, we'll be willing to participate in the audit process, just like we participated in ensuring that we have quality PPEs coming into the country to ascertain whether our members actually got these PPEs on the ground. And also in future, maybe as part of the reforms, then being able to sit in the board of management as an organization to give our professional input on the table.
But Dr. Were, have you already started taking leadership in this? I would expect that maybe if you're already considering it, you'd already have rolled out mechanisms of auditing what exactly your healthcare workers received around the country, so that by the time investigators are coming to ask you, you already have a file ready. Or if Senate asked you, you can even volunteer to go to the Senate committee and say, this is what happened on the ground.
Actually, the process has started. Immediately, the expose came out in one of the media stations. We actually linked with the network that we have from our members in different divisions, all the way from Kisumu to Mombasa. And we are actually compiling an objective report from the ground in terms of what is the situation now. And that has always informed our weekly advice to the government, where we have a COVID-19 response committee that actually meets and gives advice to the government in terms of what the situation in the ground is and what we need to do. So this data has been collected since the pandemic started. It's just a matter of putting them together. And if you are invited to the Senate, then we will be available to actually provide that data so that it can be used to hold the officers involved more accountable.
This data that you're currently providing, what purpose is it serving beyond just information for the government?
You see, the data that we'll be able to provide from our members is basically trying, because you see, the investigative agencies will need to know the truth from the ground, because the message that has been going out consistently is that all our healthcare workers are protected and they are properly equipped to actually respond to this pandemic. But if you go on the ground, the situation is different, where you find you're forced to have one mask the whole day and you're interacting with different patients. So you're not safe yourself as a healthcare worker or as a doctor, and also you're not, the patient who's coming to see you is not also safe, because then the risk of transmitting the infections to these patients then increases. So this data will help the investigative agencies actually correlate what we've been told, that, for example, the JACMA donations never reach the ground. We have members all over the country. We have members in Kemri. We have members in these organizations, and be able to tap into the experience they have or the information they have to actually provide this information to help the investigative agencies get to the bottom of this.
Dr. Were, I'm stuck on a little point here.
Yes.
If one of your members is found to have abrogated certain medical processes, I'm sure you have a way of dealing with such matters. Now, it's a yes or no question. And
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. Yes,
we have
you
a
do.
code of practice.
Precisely.
Yes.
Now, within this code of practice, do you have a code for restitution? Because if a member does something errant, is there a time within which they can be brought back to the fold? Is there a way of bringing them back into the fold?
There is a mechanism in place, and I said there's a professional code of conduct which was developed by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, and I was instrumental in that when I was serving in the same board, where if you find that one of our members has actually done something that has injured the whole fraternity, then and affected the confidence of the public, then we should be able to do our own investigations and make our recommendations to the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council for corrective action to be taken on such a member. But as I've said, that has to be left. We have to presume everyone is innocent until we have the facts.
No, I'm talking about when someone is actually guilty. But restitution, surely people make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, they must be given an opportunity to perhaps correct those mistakes and get back as much as they possibly can to the lives that they had before. This is what I'm asking. Is there such a mechanism?
There is definitely such a mechanism within the association, and also working hand in hand with the regulatory body, which once that information is provided to us, then we should be able to act on it.
Now, let me ask what I really wanted to ask. Now, if somebody who is a medical doctor is in a position of authority, say within government, and they make decisions which, not only put the lives of your members in danger, but put the lives of those in the public domain in danger. Now, when they are found to be culpable, what then? If what you have doesn't work, what then will your administration, because you're president, try and put into place to ensure that not only are they held accountable, but that the process of restitution also takes place?
We can hold them accountable within our organization and within the powers we have. As you know, KMA is an association representing doctors, and our key responsibility is to mind the welfare of our members. And we're actually trying to push, part of the reforms we're trying to push is to have Kenya Medical Association being a self-regulatory body where we'll be able to handle issues where some of our members become errant in terms of performing their functions. But now, as the law provides, it's still under the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, who will be able to review the information that will be shared once they are found guilty, for example, from the judiciary. And there are different things that can be done, which include suspension of the member from practicing for a certain number of months, 2 years, revoking of the license, and then we leave it now to the judiciary to actually now, if the funds can be traced, then to put mechanisms in place to recover those money or funds that have been lost.
Daktari, if we look at KMA as a professional association and we look at the other professional associations on what is expected of them by their members and by the general public, as KMA, you have been seeing what's been happening at Afia House, for example, and you just said Afia, the scandal, the first scandal, the second scandal, and this latest scandal, and even to a point where the CS himself comes up and says there's a lot that happens in these corridors of Afia House. As a medical association, is there anything that you have ever done to try and unravel the persons behind all these cartels, to try and identify who exactly are these barons, and to try and, let's say, just bring down this particular cartel?
We have consistently, and even if you look at most of the press media statements we've been issuing about all these scandals, we have consistently advocated for professionals' input in terms of trying to resolve these, I can say now, chronic corruption that you are seeing in our mother institution. So we have consistently voiced our concern about it. We have consistently actually advised and requested to sit in some of the boards, which happily we do sit, and we have actually been able to push for that reform agenda within those particular institutions.
But beyond voicing concerns, Bona President, beyond voicing concerns, what action have you taken? I mean, you are the end consumer. Whenever this cartel goes and infiltrates the procurement route, you're the end consumers of what, whether it's the drugs or the equipment that they buy. You're the end consumers. What action have you ever taken?
We have protested against it, and if you look at most of our members working together with the Doctors Union, we have actually come out and even participated in an internal investigation within the ministry where we came up with a Musimi Task Force report, where we actually came up with this policy document that recommended the changes that needs to be done in the ministry, so that we can be able to have it more functional or more effective in performing its function, so that we can have everyone have access to quality healthcare in this country. So we have protested against it in writing. We have participated in the reform agenda within the boards, and we have actually even held protests against it. And I know more can be done, and we continuously engage the Ministry of Health in terms of coming up with policies that are reform-based and that will ensure that actually such a thing like we have seen the COVID-19 millionaires does not come up. But you see, the implementation then has to be, we can push for it, but the government then has to buy in our professional input and actually implement it itself.
Well, let's continue this conversation after this short break. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. On the line with us this morning is Dr. Were Onyino. He is the president of the Kenya Medical Association. We are talking about COVID-19 millionaires, the corruption cartels at Afya House, what we are seeing now, the investigations ongoing at KEMSA, the management of the COVID-19 funds, and all this because it affects the people who are our frontline workers, and these are the medical professionals, the doctors, and the others. And this is what Dr. Were Onyino is giving us this morning. This is the Situation Room at 25 minutes past 8. Time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, so Nairobi is looking bright and shiny this
weather.
morning, and it's warming up in temperatures, going up to 13, and we're likely to see this through the day. A chance of a sprinkle later, but we're just going to have to wait and see. In Nyeri, it's partly cloudy at 10 and rising to about 12 earlier parts of this morning. And we'll see showers later on. Nakuru, partly cloudy conditions at 13, rising to 15, and then highs of 18 today. Eldoret, rising to highs of 20, and a chance of showers there. It's definitely going to shower in Kisumu later. Currently sunny conditions at 18. It's sunny in Kakamega at 16, and thunderstorms being invited in the afternoon. Mombasa is partly cloudy at 21 degrees and will rise to a high of 27 today. Malindi is hot and warm at 24 today, going to a high of 29. Step out of Kenya and look into Kampala, where it's 18 degrees and partly cloudy, rising slightly to 20 and 21 this morning, and then to an overall high of 26. Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees is still foggy and hazy this morning, and the fog and haze will continue through into the evening. Joburg at 4 degrees is cooling down again after we thought the winter was over, but not just yet, coming down to lows of 3 and highs of 15, and finishing off in Lagos for now, 26 degrees and partly cloudy. Chance of rain as it is the rainy season now, with highs of 30.
Mellow Spice.
Right, so the cops on Gong Road, who are making sure that you get to work a little bit later, have then been consulted by their boss this morning in terms of why they're holding things up, guys. So I guess your shouting did make some noise, and those handouts that they were asking you for now have stopped. And Gong Road is looking a lot better this morning. Coming off Mombasa Road and getting into the city centre is also looking good. There's a hold up at North Airport Road, the eastern bypass there. Heading towards Utawala is moving slowly, but it's moving all the same. Getting to the southern bypass as well as using an option to get into the CBD and avoiding Mombasa Road will also work, but then it'll get stuck right around Langata Road. But it won't be too terrible though. So good tidings this Monday morning in terms of traffic and how that's concerned. Coming off of Thika Road and off of Jogo Road as well. It's not too terrible. Bumper to bumper in some places, but you'll get where you need to go soon enough. Spice MKE. That's how you can get in touch with us on Twitter.
But what did you say? So the cops on Gong Road have been told by their boss
To stop doing that thing that they were doing. Just relax. It's Monday, man.
take a break.
Yeah.
Let's do it after they've gone to work.
And then their boss showed up. Of course, they listened.
Okay.
Spice up your life. .5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's now 29.5 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting each and every morning on Spice FM in Nairobi, 94.4, in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi 97.7. We also live stream the show on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. We are also live on KTN Home for the next 30 minutes. On the line with us is the President of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Were Onyino. And CT, you've got a question for the Dr.
Yes. What I wanted to ask was this. He talked about policies and the conversations they've had with the Ministry of Health. And if I understand it, the Ministry of Health has departments and it has divisions. Many of these are actually populated by medical doctors. So beyond just the conversations and pushing by having more conversations and determining policy and probably going to talk to the Committee on Health within Parliament, what else does the KMA do to ensure that all these policies that they are agitating for actually become a reality?
Okay, thank you. I know in the Ministry of Health, we have some of our members who serve in different capacities. But as you know how a government functions, we
Actually,
as a
no,
Ministry
we
of Health,
don't. Tell us,
so
how
many-
does a government function?
I've not served in government despite being
I apologize for putting you on the spot,
it's
but
it's a complex process, and you cannot really zero in and say that since our members do have technical positions in the Ministry of Health, then they need to do more. Of course, what we know, they have done their best. We are always in constant communication in our meetings, and the final implementation step of these policies is mostly determined by the politicians who are actually heading these ministries. And if you see, from time to time, we have actually been advocating that we do have actually technical, a doctor even to the most senior, most position in the ministry are serving there so that they can better implement these policies because they understand it better. But you see, once it's a political process or a political appointee who comes on board, we can only give the technical advice, but also, you know, the government has its own priorities and there are so many other considerations and balancing they have to do.
Daktari, there is no one in this country who at some point or the other does not need the help or the attention of a doctor, including these politicians we are referring to. There is talking to them as groups, but then there's lobbying, surely. All these high-flying politicians and powerful people have doctors, and many of them are your members. Have you actually exercised the entire might of your membership to actually ensure that the things that you want are pushed to the level that they should be?
We actually continuously do that, and from if I just give you can have a peek at my diary, and you can see working together with structures within our organization. We have actually reached out to the ministry level. We have actually, where we sit in different committees, technical working groups. We have reached out to the Parliament, where Parliamentary Health Committee, to the Senate Health Committee, and we continuously engage them to actually implement these sound policies that we do have as a country.
And is
For
it
a matter of
working?
fact,
I've got to ask, is it working? Because if you say you have a
It's
diary
work-
full of constant meetings and constant communication over and over and over again, engaging these individuals, is it bearing fruit or has apathy set in? So it's a tick the box exercise when you say, I've got to have this meeting because it's necessary for it to be seen that there's something I'm doing.
in some instances, it has actually worked. And I can give you an example actually in this COVID-19 pandemic where we were very instrumental in terms of pushing for a COVID-19 fund to be established. And through this fund, we have seen, working with some of our partners, we have actually seen initiatives from the private sector where personal protective equipment and other infrastructure development issues being addressed by this constant lobbying and through the different organs of government. So in some instances, it has worked. In some instances, is where now we see the cartels coming to stop the good work that you are doing in terms of diverting those funds to be used to other things. And just as a matter of note, in Rwanda, which is part of the EAC, if you look at most of their health policies and the things they're implementing in their country, they actually borrowed from Kenya, and they're actually doing well. And I think it's something that we need to now get into the culture of actually implementing these good, enriched documents that we have at the Ministry of Health. So in some instances, we have heard success stories. It's not all failures, and in some instances, we need to do more.
How vibrant is your calling out mechanism? Because you talk about, knowing who the barons are, knowing who these cartels are. You start up something and then you hit a roadblock, and the erectors of this particular roadblock then would be the cartels, as you've mentioned. How efficient is your calling out mechanism at the time that it happens to say, this is what is going on at this point? Because I see a situation where if there are certain things that you've been trying to accomplish over time, and it is the same people who keep posing roadblocks over and over, that you would want to say something like this in public. Or is it too scary of a thing to comprehend?
We can only do as much as a professional association, but we will continue pushing for these reforms. And I think the term cartel is actually a bit misleading, because when you put cartel, then people are able to hide behind that term instead of the certain officers taking responsibility for the action of the officers who sit there.
Okay, since you introduced it as a cartel, so are you now saying that it is not actually cartels, but it is people who've been tasked with the responsibility to get something done within the ministry and are actually not doing it?
I think that I'll correctly put it as that, but what I'm saying, the issue of cartels is a bit misleading, because people will tend to hide behind these curtains called the cartel.
Yep.
And if you go to the bottom of it, you'll find it's individuals who are actually supposed to be providing public service,
Right.
Who are not doing it according to the laid rules and regulations that are in our ministry. So these individuals then need to take individual responsibility, and they need to be taken to task so that you can be able to address these issues. But when you say cartels, then everyone goes and hides behind that.
And says there's a cartel.
Is it possible to unveil who these individuals are?
Absolutely.
The best person or the best institution that can be actually get to the bottom of it, we have the DCI, we have and the judiciary, with the work together,
Right.
then be able to get and identify who these culprits
But
are.
it gets
And
information.
because they're just criminals, and
It
then
gets
take action.
the investigative agencies get information from people
In
and from
fact,
institutions.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for the Kenya Medical Association to go ahead to the EACC or to the DCI and actually blow the whistle on these particular individuals?
If we know them, we'll gladly do it. We'll gladly write to these different institutions and provide them with the information that they need to actually be effective in the function that they do perform.
I'm sorry, Doc, but I'm finding it difficult to actually comprehend and accept that an institution as influential and powerful as the Kenya Medical Association would find it hard to know who these particular officials are who are not doing their job. It is possible for Eric not to know. It is not possible for the Kenya Medical Association, with all the might and with all the history that it has, not to know, really.
I wouldn't say that we are completely blindsided to who the individuals are. But we have the rule of law in this country, and we have to follow, we have to abide by the Constitution and the different organs and the roles that they have to play in terms of getting to the bottom of this. In as much as an association we can call out, it only serves as maybe directing them to the right place where they need to do more in terms of looking into the accountability issues that we constantly face. But as I've said, it's still a political responsibility at the end in terms of ensuring that these particular individuals who, for me, they're just basically criminals, are then held accountable or they were stealing of public funds.
Do you think they're actually going to go and
the
report themselves? I've just got to ask. Do you think, if you say that it is political, individuals who have political leaning or affiliation are the ones then who then bear the responsibility to do this, and it may be their colleagues, do you think that they're actually going to go and report themselves?
That would be a new normal in Kenya. But
Exactly.
Yeah, so what we can do as an organization, we have our networks, we know one or two individuals, we see what is happening on the ground, and we are ready and available at any time to provide that information so that the investigative agencies can actually do their job. But then, as I said, the buck stops with those investigative agencies and the political leadership then to take action once that information is provided to them.
Does KMA and the individual disciplines represented within it have a mechanism for not just self-regulating, but self-assessing the performances of their members within what is required of them?
We have members who serve in different boards in the Ministry of Health, and we have meetings where they actually report back to us in terms of how they're representing the organization and what we want to push, the agenda we want to push in those bodies. But in terms of those members of who work in different government bodies, then I think there's a clear HR department, HR function, where they have their own performance appraisals and they're able to be held accountable in terms of performing their functions in those particular offices. So we can only hold the members that we have sent into the boards, but the others who serve in government and other institutions, and those institutions have their own mechanism of doing a performance appraisal and knowing how the members actually do perform their jobs.
You know, there's a risk here, Doc, of the public actually looking at KMA and other such professional institutions and seeing as if they are complicit. Because, again, looking back at the kind of influence that the KMA has, if you look at your membership, people who have either been members before, they're current members, they've been leaders of this organization, are senior people in government, are senior people in the private sector. So you basically have a network that understands how healthcare works in this country from beginning to the end. You understand how procurement of healthcare happens. You understand how management of healthcare happens. And when you sit back as an association and say, you know, we want to point fingers and make noise at officers who are not doing their work and not mentioning them and not saying this is exactly the office that is responsible for this, that, and the other, then you could be seen to be complicit.
Contrary to that, we have not been complacent to what has been happening. In fact, if I can just emphasize, we have our members who actually serve in the Ministry of Health, and they are actually doing their work professionally and to the best of their ability as they've been trained. And the challenges that they do face is actually now in implementation of the professional inputs that they do give to the Ministry of Health. So we are not complacent. We continue to participate, we continue to advocate for implementation of these policies developed by our members, who most of the time do their work. Actually, majority of them, I know them as colleagues, and they actually do implement, they do their work as professional as possible. And we have continuously guided them, we have continuously spoken out against any misuse of the public funds meant for COVID. We have continuously, every week, put out an advice on terms of where we need to go and what we need to go to actually address this pandemic or respond to it better.
But
So
have
we are
you
not
have you
complacent.
ever
We have actually-
censured any of your members because of a role that they may have played in their place of work?
In fact, if you remember, in the past leadership of the Ministry of Health, we actually did censure one of our very senior members for going against the professional code of practice as we know it. So we have done it in the past, and we are ready and willing once all the information has been crystallized to actually call out any of our members and guide them in terms if they're not doing their function well. But as I've said, our members have continuously performed their functions in the ministry professionally, and what we need is the political environment to be made better so that these policies that have actually developed are actually implemented to serve Mwananchi better.
Looking at the lessons that the country is learning from COVID-19, and going back to the implementation of what we were seeing earlier as the universal health coverage program, what do you think the lessons are that we can take from this?
The lessons that we are getting from this particular pandemic and the issue of the COVID-19 millionaires is we need to ensure that we have the different agencies of the government, and I'm talking about the different boards and councils, properly constituted according to the law, which actually was done according to the Mongozo principle, where we envisioned good governance in most of these boards.
Yep.
And we need to give them the independence to actually perform their function, guided by the different boards, so that they can be able to hold the officers who work within those agencies accountable. Once we respect the professional input and ensure that there is space, the political space is there for these agencies to actually perform their function,
Right.
then I think we'll be able to actually implement the UHC the program better.
Doc, stay on the line as we also bring in nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga, who's just called in. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well,
Morning.
thank you. And karibu to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate.
You're part of the team that is investigating this scandal at the Ministry of Health with regards to COVID-19.
Yes.
And you've heard the conversation that we're having with the president of the Kenya Medical Association. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask him?
Yes, a question, a request, and as well a bit of a challenge. We've had interactions with KMA at our ad hoc committee of COVID-19 earlier. And they did come in and they gave us quite a bit of information on how the government was handling the COVID situation on the early onset. And they gave us very good information to work with. And they did give us also areas where we could intervene as politicians on helping, interactions with the national response team. And we really appreciated it. Now, we've not had a second interaction with the KMA, but I've listened very keenly to the president, and I appreciate that Spice FM has had him today. I've listened very keenly. As you're aware, we are looking for the COVID billionaires.
Yep.
And we are really curious on how things move around, instructions move around, how money moves around in the Ministry of Health. Now, I would have expected KMA to have truly told us something. And he has very well said that they may know a thing or two, and they are available. If somebody reaches out, they are available to give whatever information. So I'm reaching out. And I want him to come and address the committee and tell us what they know. KMA does have committees that work with government. That one they told us.
Yep.
And we know the role they played in this COVID situation. And they did a fantastic job from the early onset. But surely now we are looking for COVID billionaires. We want answers. We are happy to receive any form of answer. And that 1 or 2, 3 things that he says he's aware or he knows, we want him to come to the committee and address us. And I also just want to remind associations. Associations have a very critical role to play in issues of governance. because they can lobby. And I'm happy you did push him to answer as to why they don't lobby adequately. He was very cautious with his answers, but they have a duty to Kenya. They have a duty to Kenya. They have a duty to lobby, right?
Yep. Senator, we are losing you, but as you get your line back online, Dr. Were, you've heard the challenge that the senator is basically just throwing at you. You've said that you may know a few things here and there. The Senate committee is investigating who the COVID millionaires are, who the actual beneficiaries of our money are.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mheshimiwa for actually highlighting the role that Kenya has actually played. And I think we'll wait for the invitation from Senate. If they want our views and tell them what we know, we'll be more than willing to actually do that. And actually accept the challenge. As an association, we need to do more. And you're going to see more being done in the next few months and days and 2 months as an association in terms of improving the governance and ensuring there is good governance from our mother ministry. So we accept that challenge and we're going to do more. And I'm sure you're aware that we've just come into office barely a month. So we'll be able to pick up from the past good work done by our predecessors and actually take it to another level. And we'll be willing to work with the Senate and the Parliament, in fact, to further strengthen KMA to become the self-regulatory body for doctors so that you can hold our members more accountable.
I think also, as you look at this, there's an image to promote as well as protect here when it comes to this association, and looking at the critical role that you have to play when it comes to some of these things. And even as you said, as you're waiting for this invitation, I think when we look at some of these things, certain proactivity then also would be required, especially when you're working within a time frame that, as we speak now, is running out. And if things are going to change, if things are really going to change, then the way of doing them also needs to change for that kind of change to come about. What, in terms of a facelift for the state of health in this country, vis-a-vis the way things have always been done when it comes to health, needs to take place for us to see this kind of change that we are talking about?
Actually, what we can do as an association, of course, we will be able to provide any kind of documentation or information that will be requested of us. But I think as a step moving forward to ensuring that there's better governance and accountability from the Ministry of Health, I think it's time that the professional input, especially from KMA, is actually considered, and the policies that we contribute towards development of different committees are actually implemented. If that is done, I can assure you, you'll see a lot of improvement in terms of how health services are rolled out in this country. And of course, that goes hand in hand with working very closely with the County of Council of Governance and the counties to ensure that actually Wananchi there at the village level is able to access quality and affordable healthcare. So the issue is we'll continue pushing for the implementation because we have the good laws. And as I've said, Rwanda is actually just implementing our policies. And you can see the change of the impact of that in terms of their health system and the health space and even the way they have responded to the corona pandemic. And I think back home, we need actually to consider very seriously the professional input, especially from KMA, and implement it so that we can move forward and leave the issues of the scandals at our mother ministry in the past.
Thank you very much, Dr. Owiro Onyino Were. Thank you for speaking to us. Dr. Were is the president of the Kenya Medical Association. We thank you for speaking to us this morning, and we hope to have more conversations with you in the near future.
Thank you, Latu. Thank you for having me.
Asante sana, and thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home for tuning in to the Situation Room this Monday morning between 7 a.m. and now coming up to 5 minutes to 9. We'll be back on KTN Home tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. again. But the conversations continue on Spice FM 94.4 if you're in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, in Kisumu 102.5, in Eldoret 96.7, Nakuru and its environs 96.0, Nyeri and the region 90.9, Malindi and Kilifi it's 97.7. Also, you can catch us on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Keep it right here. And for our audience on KTN Home, thank you very much for tuning in.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Reminding you of the portal, kpa.co.ke forward, what are you saying? Hush.
Are you having a red lorry, yellow lorry moment?
I'm having one of those feast moments. Feast and sue.
Seashells.
Seashells.
On the seesaw.
Wow.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Yes, she does, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Okay, so looking at what Captain Cargo can offer you, speaking of the sea, in terms of export and the documentations that you need to get through. So your advice, which you've already received from KRA after you've made the necessary payments, then are sent to your agent and you pay the charges for the port, right? And according to Captain Cargo, then your truck arrives and all your stuff is loaded, your cargo is loaded on the truck and you're issued with a position slip. This slip then now enables you to proceed for X-ray scanning just to make sure that everything is okay. And even as you see things, well, there you go. Even as you see things playing out here, it's clear that this is what is available on the portal for you to then go ahead. And Captain Cargo has been so kind in letting us know what that's all about.
www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo. CT, what do you make of what the president of the Kenya Medical Association said? And even the challenge from Senator Sylvia Kasanga.
The senator was cut short, but the direction she was taking, one understood clearly. The chairman has just gotten in, president has just ascended to this particular position. His duty is to serve the members, and among those duties is to actually protect the members. The truth of the matter is he presented the organization as being rather toothless. Because every question that requires some action was either diverted to some government agency or to a discussion or to a look and wait as we see moment.
To a policy.
Yes. But I think also there's the underlying factor of perhaps the doctor not fully appreciating just how fortunate medical doctors are in this country if you look at the scale of people who are respected and whose views are listened to. Your doctor talking to you is a very different conversation, even if it's on a personal issues regarding them, than from someone else talking to you. If a politician came to talk to you about that same issue, the question is, who would you listen to more? Whose issue would you take more to heart? The answer is really not difficult to arrive at. This is a point of view. This is a perspective they are not leveraging a lot of things on. They can get a lot more done than they seem to want to.
But also, when I listen to Senator Sylvia Kasanga and when I watch her, even during debate in the House, sometimes when you really lose faith in these institutions, you see some individuals who come up and you're like,
and you say,
okay. And you actually even ask yourself, did the party really know who they were nominating? when this party was nominating?
Because they're clearly not playing these political games that others are playing.
Fire. Fire. And we hope, that when you have such senators and the rest, if you're still listening to us, Senator Kasanga, this is the moment to actually unravel the real faces behind this cartel.
Yes, and this should be the norm. So that when such a case goes to the Senate, you know very well you're going to be unearthed.
Yes. This is it. If it gets there, Kwisha Sisi. And a lot of action is going to be taken. So just dragging people through the mud and saying, now, because some two names have been mentioned, Now the next thing is we demand their resignation, and that's it. That will not help us
Doesn't cut
at
it.
all. At all. Coming up to the top of the hour, remind us today's Proverb City.
A truthful person will find themselves expelled from 9 villages.
A truthful person
Will find themselves expelled from 9 villages. Meaning 1 village, you go and utter your truth out. 2
3.
out. 3 out.
What is this about Proverbs and 9? 9 lives, 9 villages, 9.
I'm not
9
really
daughters
certain.
of Mombasa.
I honestly
Before you
am.
were
I,
There's something about the 9 and the Wahengas.
I really am not certain. And you're talking about, and the lives of the cat, how many are they?
9.
Oh, I thought there were 12. 9.
Yeah. Coming to the top of the hour. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 9 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Okay, so, looking much better in certain parts of the city today. Coming out of traffic hour in just a short while. It shouldn't be too crazy here on out, but then we do see a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road right around the SGR, heading then into the CBD. As you get to where the expressway is being worked on, then you see a little bit of traffic then also just around Nyayo, getting towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Then and after that, you should be fine. Uhuru Highway until Westlands, moving at a snail's pace, but moving all the same. Coming out of Thika Road, also not so bad. It's looking good, guys. Let us know if you jump into something that is not too pleasant. Let us know, and we'll see how we can spread the word to either get you moving or at least alert other people of what's going on. Spice FM MKE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
All
the
right, it's
Situation
now 2
Room,
minutes of
the only way to
Thank you
start
very
your
much
day.
for keeping it here. This is Spice FM. And in this hour now, we continue this conversation, these cartels, and the name dropping that we saw on Friday on the floor of the Senate between the chairman and the suspended CEO of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. I personally loved what Dr. Jonah Manjari did. I personally loved it. You know what? From where I sit, I believe that there's a bigger problem in the Ministry of Health, and it goes beyond somebody who was appointed less than 2 years ago into this ministry. It goes beyond somebody who was appointed as the head of this ministry this year, less than 6 months ago into this ministry. It goes beyond these people. It goes beyond the PS, Susan Mochache. It goes beyond these particular individuals. It goes deeper into somebody else. There's this creature that has roots and has tentacles in every floor, every corridor of Afia House, and is able to run operations at Afia House. So when I saw Dr. Jonah Manjari on the floor and saying, you know what, I was receiving instructions, and my instructions were coming, he did not talk about the individuals, because the individuals really talked about the officers here. And this is the CS and the PS, and saying, I was getting calls from the PS. I was getting SMSs from the PS, and they were telling me, look, this is the direction we want you to take. Also, if you listen to what the chairman, Kembe Gitora, was also saying on the floor of the Senate, he was also talking about a board that has been appointed, but a board that does not really have the final say on what happens in this organization. So it points to.
And he had
There's
to wait
something.
for this moment to say this.
Yeah, of course. Now those are the other questions. The point is, here is a problem that is being unearthed.
I agree completely.
Names are being mentioned. I hope now that Mutahi Kagwe can go and Susan Muchache, instead of saying, "Oh, I want the PS to come," the CEO to justify the messages that are sent to him, go to the floor of the Senate, Madam PS, and also talk about your frustrations. Say if you receive orders from elsewhere. Say if there are any individuals who come and they drop names and tell you to do this, or you leave office. Finally, this is our opportunity to fight this cartel. However, the people around the weekend have just been saying, so now that Mutahi Kagwe has been mentioned, Mutahi Kagwe should step aside. Of course, the politicians, and I see what the CS said. He said, I personally brought the prices of these items down, and this is why they are fighting me. They are fighting me. He needs to tell us who they are. This is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused. Whoever is pulling these strings has found their voice, and the voice has now been directed towards, it went to Jonah Manjari. Jonah Manjari passed on the ball, kicked back the ball.
Hot potato.
Landed on Mutahi Kagwe. Mutahi Kagwe is hot potato in the mouth, and he's trying to throw it and spit it into someone else. Who is he going to spit it to? But as he does that, now the politicians have ganged up and they're starting to say, Kagwe must go.
Two things.
Should Kagwe go, really?
Why is it so difficult to then name names? We've spoken to the president of the KMA. We've spoken to other people. We hear from Jonah Manjari who says, I took it from upstairs. Why is it so difficult to name individuals who, number one, are not doing their job, or who have given instructions over certain things to be done that you know is outside of normal practices that should be laced with at least some form of integrity?
Or the external actors who make these calls.
Why is it so difficult to do that?
It's not difficult.
So what is it that is being protected? Your job? Because it looks like whether you try to protect your job by not naming names, they're going to call you out at some point anyway, right? Mutahi Kagwe told us 2 months ago that he would leave no stone unturned, and I quote, and not 1 cent of these funds would go missing.
Stolen.
That is
Not
what he
on
said.
his
So
watch.
are you,
Not on his
are you
watch.
suggesting that the stone has arrived now?
Omo, the stone has arrived, it has turned and has flipped all over again.
Okay.
Yeah? So then, this thing that you're saying, because he quotes so many times, but they. So you know who this person is. It's not like you're feeling in the dark and there's some amorphous creature that is speaking and whispering in your ear, and then when you turn on the lights, this thing disappears.
Yep.
You know who it is. It's an individual, he, she, whomever. You know, living, breathing human being.
What's that creature called?
I don't know what it is, but I know it.
The one whom the light chases away.
When you switch on the light, it goes away.
He goes,
In every community has them.
No, you know it, isn't it?
And
you
from
know what
childhood
I'm
you're
talking about.
told.
Yeah,
Among the Luo, it's called Koko.
that one.
Spelled K-O-K-O.
Now that's
And
not
it's
what-
only found in the dark.
in the dark.
Yes.
Coco.
Koko.
That's not what we're dealing
And you don't
with.
see it.
You never
Don't
see
see
it.
But that's not what
But
we're
it's a
dealing.
horrible creature.
That's not the
scary
one
stuff.
we're dealing with at the Ministry of Health. This one, the Ministry of Health, living, breathing, heart beating, blood thumping individual. You know, or many. You know who they are. Why is it so difficult? His name is Eric Latif.
No, it's
His name is Siti Muga. His name is Undu
it's a
Oko.
cultural requirement.
Why is it
That's-
so hard?
That,
What is it that,
that
you're
you say
it's
there's
a
a
cultural
Coco.
requirement. No. You don't mention it by name. No.
You don't say Coco.
You never say.
Yeah.
No, these fearsome things you don't mention by name. No, but it seems to be an acquired cultural habit to be vague. Just think and look back at any of our serious issues. They are predominated by vagueness. Just you're waiting, okay, say it. Say it. And that's why when someone says it, remember we had a guest earlier on, Mheshimiwa Alice Wahome.
Yeah.
She was very direct about her criticism of the president.
She said
Direct. I have rarely had anybody that direct. Clearly she was upset. And she figured, surely,
What am I
if
gonna
Come
do?
and buy.
yes. And maybe she was expelled from Village 1. But
She's on
Village 2
two.
or
she's
3
on
now.
2 or 3 now, yes. But she spoke her mind. It is rare. That is the whole point.
And guess what? she's still alive.
Of course she is. Other times when it appears that people are being honest, it is absolutely and patently clear that they have an axe to grind. So whatever they're saying is already tainted. You're figuring,
Forget it.
no.
Or that there's something to hide.
Yes.
Or
yes.
that there's something to hide. So I really do have a problem, a real problem with, we know the truth, and those people are the ones who don't want us to do one to the other. But then you never really tell us who they are.
No, but also...
And it seems as if your existence on a daily basis is being plagued by these individuals who are not allowing you to do your job, and who are tainting your image by the thing that they continue to do.
ask.
But you seem to be okay with it,
But ask,
and not name them.
Ask why. Wwhy? Because it isn't as though when this issue came up is when these names suddenly came with them.
Exactly.
No?
No, they've been
It's
there.
not like a ship which arrived with the containers.
You
No.
know who they... Oh,
This thing-
or in this
The
case,
ocean.
didn't arrive.
This is
Or in
the
this
ocean.
case, didn't
Yes.
arrive.
So the truth of the matter is, ask yourself, forget even just the political divide, whenever you have issues. For the longest time, I remember, they'd be even in the places I've worked in, getting someone to actually state and say to so-and-so, hey,
Go move.
it's a teeth-pulling exercise. When they've now, for instance, lost their jobs, then
Then they
suddenly,
want to talk.
they are suddenly very vocal. So you ask, what is it about this culture? Why are people that way inclined?
Without actually realizing that, you know what? If you did speak up, would probably be direct access to you keeping your job.
Actually, the experience is the opposite.
If you are a whistleblower, then you lose
you-
your job, or
yes,
you're thrown out
you
of
go.
the circus.
The opposite,
You're thrown out of
yes.
the circus, right?
Not thrown out is mild. You are harassed and hounded.
And you wear a scarlet letter then for the rest of your existence.
That's it.
okay.
We have people who've been whistleblowers who've died as a result of just the mistreatment that they received, and they were not lying.
Okay, but this is my thing. If you're going to say that, if we're asking the question now, should the CS for Health resign or not, based on these now allegations that are being made? All right, he has previously said that there will be no cent that will be lost under his watch. There will be no stone that will be uncovered. Then if truly that is his position and he's ready to do everything that he can and will to make sure that that doesn't happen, then don't resign. But if you're not going to open your mouth, if you're
Step
not
aside.
going to name who these individuals are, move.
No, but is he even able to do the things he said he could do? That is the question I want to ask.
He
Go
overpromised.
Yes.
He was
is
basically-
is he actually, in all honesty, able to do these things?
Look, we're talking about something.
So what are you doubting? Are you doubting his willingness?
No. His ability.
I don't
His
have a problem with his
ability.
willingness.
It's a
Even his capacity. No, capacity, just the wherewithal.
capability.
Yes. There are things you are not able to do even if you want to.
Because
Let me explain. You know, we've discussed for a long time how it is that we are so duplicitous as Kenyans. On the one hand, we say this, but given quietly, we do this and so forth. This is where it comes to a head. And there's that quiet conspiracy that we as Kenyans have agreed that you're always negotiating just in case and say, I could have mentioned you, but I didn't mention you. Okay? So now, you're always leaving room for some other discussion to take place. And what we end up doing is we never make serious stands on anything. Are you telling me, for instance, that the Senate cannot make a stand on this issue of the budget? They can. Are we saying that Parliament cannot, the National Assembly cannot decide on that two-thirds general rule? They can. But they know why. We also understand why. But it is, that's why I call it culture. It's our culture. There are things we just skirt around. We all skirt around. Now, what Mheshimiwa Kagwe did was what someone in his position is supposed to do. You are
Say.
supposed to come and say tough things.
spit fire.
Say, it's what you expected. And he was doing well. And in this very same studio, we said, Mzee, this one, be a bit careful. This particular ministry
They will eat you.
has caused harm to many people. Now, it appears like it has come to harm him.
So soon, man.
Yes, it has come to harm him, but he came in at a time when there were too many balls in the air and all of them were explosive.
Yeah.
Look, let's look at the things. Let's just look at that week of March 8th. March 8th was a Friday. March 13th was a Friday. And that meant that the 6th of March was a Friday. 7th, 8th, 9th of March. This man was overseeing World Congress on something totally totally different. I had a conversation with him that day, and he was, excited about his new role. He was happy because not long before that is when he had been appointed, right? And was talking about malaria and other, not too difficult subjects. All right. Less than 5 days later, enter COVID, and things went crazy. Almost immediately. Spoke to him the next Monday, literally 7 days after, and it was sounding like a totally different man. 1 week has that effect.
I haven't
Especially when you
slept.
my friend, when you throw in so many things things that you may have said when circumstances were different could very easily change when you throw some more balls into the air.
And then you know what happens? The players who normally, supposedly, this is my imagination at play here, looking at ministries and the budgetary allocation and said, which ministry has huge budgetary allocations and which ones are under the national government? Because the devolved ones, those ones in true Kenyan style have been left with the governors and their cronies to eat.
To deal.
To eat.
To eat.
Now, but yes, that's a Kenyan conversation.
Got it.
But now these ones which are at the national level, okay? It's like there's a pecking order. The orders beyond this amount, we know so and so, and are the ones who eat.
Yeah.
These ones are the ones who... Now, if you are appointed and you have an idea of what happens, this man has been a minister before.
Yes, he has.
Okay? But not in the Ministry of Health. Then you arrive at the Ministry of Health, which has had more scandals than you can actually think or imagine. And these are the ones we know of.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, suddenly COVID happens and there is money at play. Money which is just outside the normal budgetary allocations, money at play. Can you see the frenzy of what would happen with that scenario that I just painted? You're the minister, you're going to be thrown off balance completely. Completely off balance. Now, what makes his situation even trickier? If you are to believe everything that you see or some of the things you read in social media, the papers, and some of the names and individuals being mentioned are related to the president, how on earth do you handle such things?
Oh, yes. How? Because you can't even go and ask the president, should I deal with so-and-so?
Where do you start?
You cannot.
Even if it's a malicious person who's decided, let's just throw this thing in the air and see how it works.
They thought they were going to handle us.
Yes. How on earth, because somebody could just mention names to sort of like throw the cat among the pigeons.
Yes.
Let there be a flurry of feathers everywhere, so you're not really sure which way to move. But if you're the minister and you're put in such a position, what on earth are you going to do?
Oh, sorry for Mutahi Kagwe. 16 minutes after 9. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. So we are asking the questions this morning. So who are these people who are fighting Mutahi Kagwe? Who are these people that he says it is corruption fighting back, political witch-hunted play? I remain focused. There are those that have been demanding that Mutahi Kagwe steps aside this weekend because he's been named by the CEO of KEMSA on the floor of the Senate. Well, the CEO of KEMSA has not produced any evidence yet, but the conversation is already out there. Mutahi Kagwe, step aside. Should Mutahi Kagwe step aside? 1. 2, should Mutahi Kagwe now just come out and go to the floor of the Senate and say, these are the individuals that have been frustrating me at the Ministry of Health. These are the individuals who run cartels in that ministry. These are the owners of the evil network in that ministry. Should he do that? Or should he just step aside and say, you know what, this one, let me just go, run my PR company and my other businesses. I was okay before that. Wait for 2022, I ran for Senate again or Governor of Nyeri. Leave this thing alone. 0709 012 600.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Warming up to 18 degrees in Nairobi. Mostly sunny conditions throughout today. We'll go to a high of 26 and lows of 12. Nakuru is partly cloudy at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12 with a chance of a shower later in the afternoon. It's going to be bright and sunny in Nyeri all through, highs of 24 and lows of 12, no matter who's running for governor or senator. And in Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 19 and lows of 11 with thunderstorms forecasted for later. It's going to be a rainy afternoon in Kisumu. It's mostly sunny at the moment at 21 and it'll go to highs of 26. Kakamega is mostly sunny at 19 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 14 with showers expected later. It's going to be a wet afternoon in Mombasa as well, currently mostly sunny at 26. Malindi is mostly sunny as well at 27. It'll go to a high of just 28 and lows of 24, but the rain will come in to cool things down just a little bit. It's partly cloudy in Kampala at 21 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 18. And in Dar es Salaam, it's partly cloudy as well, highs of 26. The fog seems to have dissipated, highs of 30 and lows of 21. Warming up ever so slightly in Joburg at 8 degrees now. It'll go to a high of 18 and lows of 7. Clear skies in Lagos at 25. It is the rainy season though, so the rains will make a check-in later, highs of 28 and lows of 23. It's partly cloudy in Paris, highs of 21 and lows of 11, and also a chance of thunderstorms there later. Clear skies in London at 9, highs of 18 and lows of 8. And finally in New York, it's now Monday morning, 26 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions, highs of 28 and lows of 21.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
For many years, one of the former PSs in the Ministry of Health in the Kibaki administration, Professor James Ole Kiapi, has come here and has told us, look, that place, no jokes. No jokes. You are doing this and then you thought you approved for this to happen. You come and realize later that what actually happened is completely different from what you thought was happening.
You know, you asked the question, should Mutahi Kagwe resign? What is the threshold for recognition? Just because someone has mentioned your name. What is your threshold for resignation? Just because you happen to be minister in that particular ministry?
Yes.
No.
The threshold for resignation, because funds have been stolen under your watch. When you came and promised not a shilling.
If he has set in place mechanisms to unearth it, we're assuming that he knows everything that happened in that ministry. I dare say he doesn't.
He said it himself.
No minister does.
He said himself.
It's okay.
He doesn't need to know everything and everybody, but he's
you
aware
are the
of
head of
something
that
that's going on.
organization.
And he has already confirmed that there are those who are already fighting back. He has said them, they, them. Those are the adverbs that he has used, rather pronouns that he has used.
It's
Them,
not Coco that's
they.
fighting.
It's
He
not Coco.
knows.
It's somebody he knows and he has seen. This one, he doesn't need to switch off the light or switch it on. It's there. Plain sight. And he has said the same. They, them, fighting back. So he knows who they are.
Let the man fight it and let's see how he's going to fight it.
Look at other nations. Sometimes a whiff. They just smell like the smoke from far. Somebody has said,
Yes,
thank
yes,
you. I'm not doing it again.
Those people don't have the Kenyan Ministry of Health. That's why. Give them the Kenyan Ministry of Health and see how they manage
They'll
it.
stay.
Uh,
They'll stay. They won't resign.
let them see. They'd take one look and just move out of politics completely.
Exactly.
Maybe enter the church.
Exactly. So should it be that thing where you get in and you realize, oh my God, the rot is actually worse than I thought. So then rather than sit here and give Kenyans promises and say, you know what, I'm going to unearth this thing, or under my watch, not a single cent will be stolen. Rather than say things like that, when you realize this thing, a long story, you'd rather even say, you know what, thank you. Let me go and do the one that I can do. But you people, this one, I cannot.
Let me speak Nigerian also. Omo, just listen.
Now, wow.
When a dragon slayer is informed that he or she's required to only slay one dragon, and then you arrive there and find it's an entire clan.
And their eggs about to hatch.
Yes, and this one you realize when you've been singed, because dragons are supposed to be fire producing. Let the dragon slayer have time to figure out. The dragon slayer has not had time to even figure out.
Dragon Slayer has already said, even when he has gone and seen the pregnant dragon, the one that has just laid the eggs, the other one that are mating
He
now,
came out and said,
he already came
"This
out and
one's-"
said, these ones, I will remove all of them. Bah. And he saw them.
Actually, those are the ones he saw.
He saw them.
Those are the
And he was
ones
still
he saw.
talking. He
No,
was still
those
talking.
are the ones he saw.
Even
He had not
today.
seen the entire clan.
Even today,
Look,
as he was still seeing all of them, he even said, he said it again. and said,
No.
I am not going to allow this to happen.
Of course, he wasn't going to allow. Remember, this is not one of these situations where his sight deceived him. No. What he saw, he saw. He just didn't see all of it. Now, he's seeing all of it. Now. So now he's in a position to make that statement again and said, let's revise that earlier statement.
Let's remove this unturned thing we were talking about. But then do you know what he said?
Yeah,
Siti?
let's start with the stone
The
first.
stone is too big.
He said, this is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused. Remain focused on what? That initial thing that he had said, whereby, Omo, it's not me. I will not allow any money get stolen while I'm here.
They
Who
don't know
told
me.
you? They basically said,
Look.
they don't know me.
Do you know why fairy tales exist?
He even said, wait now, let me finish, City. He even said, it pleases me that you now have a deeper, as if you didn't know before, a deeper understanding of why I am so resolute about transforming the sector. Him wants to transform this sector with these pregnant, egg-laying, copulating dragons that you're talking about. Still saying that he's going to slay them.
Yes, I have accepted. I am simply telling you this, Indu. These perilous jobs, you very rarely know just how perilous it is until the peril doesn't stare at you in the face when it bites you in the rear. Then you're like, goodness gracious me. You mean this is how perilous this thing actually is?
So,
Even him, believe me, he had an idea of what probably happens there, like anyone would. When you get there, you still think you have an idea. You issue statements, and remember the people telling you, yes, Mkubwa, we've done
no,
this,
same
we've done, everything is in place. And
Meanwhile,
if
they're the ones
then you
that-
come out and make more statements. And in fact, let's go and show you what we've done. You're shown a little
Sure.
bit of what you've done, all right? And then again, what you've done. Then this thing which you're not shown comes out. Teeth bared. And you're bitten. They say, goodness gracious, where did this one come from?
okay, that place, he has not reached it.
Oh, he has reached.
He
This
hasn't
one.
been bitten yet.
He has not been beaten, OCT. The way he's
You-
talking.
My friend, let me tell
This
you.
is not talking like a man who's been bitten.
Yeah, he's resolute to fight this.
He's just
Are
hearing
you-
the
are you-
grumbling.
But
are
now
you-
he's
No,
happy
he's
because
been
the rest of
bitten. He's been
no.
bitten.
According to him, he's happy that the rest of you Kenyans have now seen what's really going on at the Ministry of Health, like you didn't know before.
No.
Now,
No, you didn't
with
know.
the revelation,
You can't
you
know.
people, you outside didn't know. Now, the revelation of all these things that have been going on now segues into your vision in terms of what is really going on there. Now you can understand why I'm resolute. I remain focused. He has not been beaten.
No, he has.
The first bite city, when DCI or ESCC officers summon him, bite.
Allow me to introduce a concept that is true in such situations. It's called shock. When you're shocked,
You can say all manner of things.
You say everything.
this one I cannot respond with one word. Where? Look, this isn't something light, okay? Because it's your reputation is at stake. Your job is at stake. And why? It's because of the manner in which this thing has just sort of like come in and it's engulfing you. Now, the focus of the entire country, by the time you have headline status, my friend, it isn't a small thing. And if it's headline, it is not going to go away tomorrow or the day after. And more things will keep coming up and up. And the real battle is not even this. The real battle, as I said earlier on, is what has taken place before you ever even thought of becoming a minister in that ministry. The history of that ministry is coming and is being lumped on your head.
Everything.
In fact, let me use the word pop on your head.
The way it has been lumped on people before him.
This one is worse because before there was no COVID.
There was no COVID. Now, with all that had gone wrong, from the mess to previous scandals, from NHIF to I don't even know what, and then you put COVID on top of this. COVID without the scandal, by the way, was just a whole other thing that he had to deal with, right? Then now there was COVID, the pandemic, and then now add COVID, the corruption, to all of this.
But guys, I think the methodology then of this very honest dragon slayer are what we should be questioning. Because this dragon slayer, if he has a clear picture so far of at least the father and the mother and the firstborn of the dragons, and he knows the grandfather is somewhere hiding, the uncles are somewhere in the back, just come out and say the father and mother are so and so.
Simple.
What
And
if
start saying this is the shape of the dragon. In fact, we were
This is
thinking
what
that
it
this
looks like.
dragon looks. This is describe to us how it looks like.
Thank you.
Then tell us. I'm gonna go back now. What what I need, guys? is I need a stronger
Reinforcements.
reinforcement. I need an iron. Tell us what you need. Then we stand behind it. But if you just continue saying, come on, it's just a dragon making noise, then we just think,
Even you're there with them.
you've been
Copulating
given
with the
meat
dragon.
by the
Essentially, what
dragon.
you're saying is that you're a dragon also.
Or they
Yes.
gave you a wife. Come on, man. Seriously, it shouldn't be so difficult to say, this is actually what I'm facing. Or you want to fight it by yourself and come out the hero.
No.
Oh, it won't work.
No, that's why I mentioned the word shock. You can come in and you actually think you have a handle on it, and then it dawns on you, you actually don't.
You're a Krutu in this thing.
Yes, you are. That is a very good word.
Sorry, what?
Krutu is the
Recruit.
Kenyanization of the word recruit. And it was referenced to in the army, people who were recruited were called Krutus.
You couldn't just say recruit.
We did.
See, that's it.
What did you hear?
9:30. The Situation Room is Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Should Mutahi Kagwe step aside and pave way for investigations into this? Or should he just come out and name the people that he thinks are behind the cartels in Afi House? Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic. But we'll take your calls right after this.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
So, yes, for Monday morning, actually doing pleasantly well, guys. Where there was bumper to bumper to bumper traffic, is not so much right now. Looking pretty good. So we know that police officers were caught unaware by their bosses, and we know this happened on Gong Road today. So now you can move along and stop causing traffic. That drama is over, so we can reduce the traffic that is on Gong Road. Apart from that, it looks pretty good. Spice FM KE through the day. In case you see something that we should know about traffic-wise, we don't expect levels to pick up until the evening. Be safe wherever you are.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Yes.
What is that threshold?
Actually, the reason why I asked about the threshold, the reason I mentioned the threshold was because I was thinking of the Treasury when the CS and his principal secretary were asked to leave. I noted that that particular ministry doesn't have a KEMSA equivalent.
They don't.
No. They actually don't have an NHIF equivalent. The reason is because the money comes to them. It is them who decide
Where it goes.
And there was evidence of authorization by the CS. There were decisions that only those two top people could have made. This is not the situation that we have here. And when you have arms within, or departments or parastatals within that same ministry, and who have a board, the truth of the matter is that there are decisions that actually are made by those people. You can talk about it being influenced, but it exists. So early days yet, accusations have been made. We hear the direction this thing is taking. But if we were to follow what the MPs, the members of parliament or the August House are saying, then I think I would ask them to drink the water that they're preaching. They should then all resign also. Because if we look at the things that they are said to have done, and which is their purview, no one else's, and they haven't done, they have had time to sort out this one simple thing of the gender. One, Now ameshindwa. So let other matters come to the fore. The threshold is there is evidence that this person was culpable. Right now, his culpability lies in the accusation.
So for you, threshold is evidence.
My friend, irrefutable. It has to be there.
A threshold.
And then
threshold that you
yes,
that you did something.
not just me. It's not me.
Evidence.
No, no.
So
It's
should
not
there
me.
be
It's not
evidence?
me. It's not I, Eric. It is evidence that investigative bodies can tell you this is the evidence we've had. Now, at that point, surely.
Should there be evidence that there was misappropriation or that there was loss?
Every accusation from loss, accusation, forcing the hand, insist for all that. The debate is still going on as to who said what. And really, if it's at the level of talking, I would expect that the PS talks to such people. I would expect the minister talks. So they were talking, and I would expect them to even discuss these matters that we are now, which are at the center of the discussion. I would expect them to talk. But what part of that talk constitutes wrongdoing? That has to come to the fore.
But how about this? How about overall responsibility?
As the custodian of this,
As a custodian
particular
of this
office.
particular office.
Let me introduce.
If you talk about now those things that you're saying, yes, the board can take that responsibility and say, right, out. The CEO can take that and say, out. Who appoints the board?
Why-
The board is appointed by the minister.
I agree, but why are we quick to believe what the board is saying? Why can they also not just be passing the buck?
No, not about saying. Are we saying that we are too quick to believe that there was loss of COVID-19 funds?
No, we're not saying that.
So
What
as
we're
long
saying-
as there is that
That's enough to sit.
there was loss of COVID-19 funds
Yes.
under your watch,
Yes.
that is enough. That is threshold.
No, for me it isn't. It isn't threshold. It isn't threshold. Right now, Kenya Medical Research Institute has had issues with actually churning out the number of tests that it should do.
Yeah.
There was the issue of reagents. There's the issue of the whatever, the wherewithal that is required to carry out these things. They are the body that could actually perform these things on the largest scale in the country. That hasn't been happening. We don't hear that story anymore. We don't even know whether what was being waited for actually arrived. We don't know.
Imagine.
No, we don't know. So now, because KEMRI is not able to meet the obligation that it has, so should the director of KEMRI resign? The answer is no. Because why? I can explain mitigating circumstances. They are beyond his reach. Now, we are assuming that the minister doesn't have things which are beyond them. They do. There are things which are beyond them. And that's what we are talking about here. These things which are beyond the minister.
Right, but with the words from the same minister, he said those things that you're talking about amount to the stones that he talked about, where he said none of them would be left unturned.
That was one.
Oh no, these are many stones, okay? And not a shilling, but now we're talking about billions. Not a shilling would have been lost under his watch. He took public responsibility for some of these things. He took public responsibility and said, look, under my watch, these things will not happen. Under my watch, no stone will be left unturned. Under my watch, etc., etc., etc. So now something has come about whereby scrutiny is being applied under what? Your watch. So it is under that same watch that you'll be held up against and said, look, under your watch, it seems that certain things happened. So now, because of that, it's grounds for you to say, okay,
Moral
something
responsibility.
went wrong.
I actually agree with you, but in addition to that moral responsibility should include him re-strategizing, gathering his troops, and fighting back. That is what I think he should also add to that strategy that we're talking. Because in all honesty, this thing hit the headlines as in it came to the fore last week. We are now this week. I'm not saying it should take a month before anything happens, but I'm simply saying that I would not recommend the resignation of the minister.
What hit the headlines last week?
Oh, no, this matter of
The
COVID
loss.
No, not the loss. The headlines was KEMSA. The headlines was then the board.
And you see, that's where now you're going wrong, CT.
Why am I going wrong?
Because you're taking just the issue of KEMSA and
Actually-
the mentioning,
No, I'm
the
not, Eric.
mentioning of the CS's name as the issue.
Eric.
No, the issue. Remember the first time we talked about.
Eric, I'm talking about the catalyst. The issues in this ministry have for the longest time had one commonality. They're always unsolved. Okay? And all those fellows who didn't solve those issues are not here. Some were transferred, some left, some did whatever. And
Yep.
I'm saying they've come up. There's all these things happening. We are determining Kagwe's guilt even before.
We are not determining his guilt.
It's not matter whether he's guilty or innocent.
We are determining his responsibility.
In this country,
He is responsible.
in this
From the
country,
moment Jack Ma's donations left China and they went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and they were being distributed across Africa, and they landed at JKIA, and then they did not end up where they were supposed to go, responsibility number one. From the moment Chinese government donated to the Kenyan embassy in Beijing, Kenyan embassy in Beijing shipped them to JKIA, they disappeared, responsibility again. From the moment you look at how much money has been given towards the fight against COVID-19, and then there are questions that have emerged on how the money has been used. Those are responsibilities. And for as long as you can not come and say, okay, yeah, I take responsibility for this, you just come and say, I take responsibility for this, and this is what I have established, this is what happened. As long as you don't do that, then it means that you have questions to answer. Please step aside and answer those questions. Ukiwa pale nje, tutakuita.
And then even when you're giving this explanation, you say it is them. There's a they, there's a them, but there's still the refusal to name who these individuals are. You're not taking that responsibility and saying, nobody's saying you're guilty. Nobody's saying that you put your hand in the cookie jar and actually took these funds and lined your pockets with them. But the responsibility of office lays squarely in your lap. Now, if you're going to say that here I am within this office and I am naming Ndu, I am naming Eric, or at least I'm coming to have a conversation with you about what may or may not have been lost, and I am making that public, as publicly as the statement that I made when I told everybody that I am taking responsibility, then that's different. By all means, stay there and continue fighting. But you're going to continue with this maybe lily-livered attitude towards maybe I know and maybe I don't know. No. Not be so we did do them.
That one.
well,
No be said.
do you know if I were to comment on what Ndu has just said, I can only express it in Kiswahili. Ameongea kikwao.
No.
Anaongea kikwao.
Yes, whenever an African does that, they're overwhelmed.
Bas.
Yeah, this one.
That's just the end. It's
No, mother tongue just comes in. Whoop,
gone beyond.
no. My position, I think, on this particular matter has been made clear. The minister has spoken. Let us see what he then does. So he has said, let's see if he follows it by action. That's what I'm talking about, the strategy. He has said, by your words, I will. Let's see that.
He said this 2 months ago.
Oh,
CT.
yes, but I'm saying, he has said, let's see. This is an
How long?
opportunity-
How long should we give him?
This is an opportunity for the doing.
When do we start? When do we start seeing the results of his
fruits of
doing?
this
No, this week is good enough.
Okay, so he said this 2 months ago.
Yes.
We still want to expect that to happen this week. Why not? Why not?
2 months ago, we didn't have the situation that we now have. Did
2
we?
months ago, we had a different situation.
Precisely. Now,
And this was about the spending of a billion shillings to buy mandazis for meetings instead of fighting
Eric,
COVID.
you know,
He said what?
You really
I
must
am
be
going to
comprehensive
announce.
about these things. You just can't mention the mandazis and leave out the samosas.
And the samosas.
To be democratic in this pastry
Surely.
government.
No, you can't. And
There's
those-
about to be hiring ambulances and buying ambulances.
And
There's-
printing paper.
And printing paper. And I don't know, giving how much money credit to medical workers across the country, how many thousands of them. All that. What did he say? I am going to give answers. Susan Mochache went to the National Assembly with one budget. She said, oh, no. Sorry, sure you.
Bring it back.
I'll bring you the right one. Took it.
Never came back.
CS
Until they even told us
Mutaika,
they
what
didn't
did he
spend any
say?
money.
I am going to find out the actual position. That was
Let
a
me-
long time ago.
Let me read what one of our listeners has actually just sent and told me, okay?
Uh-huh.
With reference to what we're discussing. A man enters a moving bus and is making his way to the driver's seat in a crowded bus. Is he to blame for making his way to the driver's seat because it's crowded?
Say that again.
A man enters a crowded bus.
Right.
Okay, but he wants to move towards the driver's seat because there's an exit. Okay? Now, are we to blame his process of movement on the crowd or on the bus or on the driver? Who would we blame here? But he's making his way. But
So you're saying eventually he'll get to the driver's seat.
I'm saying we know where he's headed. And we will know when he gets there.
And you know the bus is crowded.
And we know the bus is crowded.
All right. Let's not talk about the man who's just an ordinary passenger. Let's talk about the driver. Is the driver responsible for this bus being crowded? Mutahi Kagwe is not an ordinary passenger who's just boarded this vehicle.
He's the driver.
Does
Wanna
the-
This
listener.
particular
When
bus.
you board a bus, Eric, when you board a bus, does the bus know who you are?
Yeah, and Mutahi Kagwe is not a passenger. Mutahi Kagwe is a driver.
Also, you're referring to him as the driver now.
Yes.
He's the one who's taking this bus somewhere. Supposedly.
Why is this
If you
simple
enter a
analogy
bus-
lost on you? Why don't you bring your own analogy? This is the problem with me. I read an analogy, then you guys now bring your own analogy. Hiya.
So our analogy is a
Same
driver.
bus?
A driver finds his bus at the bus stop. It's ready to depart, gets onto the bus, starts driving the bus. It's crowded. Is he to blame for driving a crowded bus?
All right, that's yours. Ndu, your analogy.
A man gets into a bus and starts driving. Realize that there's a problem with this engine, that they put sugar in the fuel tank. Should he stop and try to fix the vehicle, or should he keeps moving?
Is he to blame for continuing to drive?
Continuing to drive where there's sugar in the fuel tank.
Okay.
Tell the listener a change. Can you amend?
No, the listener is
Can you
listening.
amend this analogy?
The listener, I'm sure, is listening because this analogy,
Give us a
Give
different
us some
analogy
different
that
ingredients.
we can deal with.
here, I think we have a situation where a truthful man is on the sixth village. 3 more to go.
Telling you. This one.
Hey, whoa.
Especially since you publicly took responsibility for everything that happens there. Maybe you would have said the strategy would have been different if he didn't speak out.
Yeah.
If he didn't say it's my responsibility, maybe you would have
He'd
assumed
have
that it was.
pulled a Dr. Mailu.
Yeah.
But
You know,
Said,
I tried
didn't know.
asking.
I tried
Actually-
asking questions. Nobody told me anything.
our listener
so-
has responded and said the driver is actually corruption, and the minister will never reach that seat.
Yeah, so what should he do?
So should he get off the bus or
He's
not try
already
to
on-
get to the
he's
front?
already on the bus.
He's
The bus
already
is
on
moving.
the bus. It's moving. We are going.
He's not near the door. So what should this driver? What
Should he
should this
stand there
man
and
do?
watch it happen? Should he try and get out the window?
Scream.
Try to get to
Apart
the...
from being a talk show host, who told you I was a prophet?
Time for another break, and time for us again to talk about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO.
So today we're looking at documents for export of your cargo out of the country and what Captain Cargo promises in terms of a seamless operation when it comes to this. And now you see that your proceeds to KPA, your truck proceeds to the KPA stacking area, and the export cargo is offloaded, and then it gets onto the ship, and the ship sails from the port. Having all your documentation in order, that's the promise that you receive a seamless operation, and you can follow on the portal Captain Cargo how this should happen. www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So as we were going to the break,
Mornings
there was
done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
600, that's 0719-012-600. Should Mutahi Kagwe take moral culpability right now and say, you know what, this thing, it runs deeper than you people think, and therefore I'm stepping aside? Or should he say he's fighting and stay on, fight another day? 0719-012-600. Just call in. So the analogy again is the corruption is driving the bus, and it's
Corruption is the driver.
and it's overloaded.
But this isn't one of these newfangled vehicles that can drive itself. No, the driver here is the
Is the corruption. So corruption is driving the bus.
And the
and who are the
driver is trying
passengers?
to get to the seat.
The rest of us, plus the minister who's just
Just boarded.
he's just boarded,
And he's trying to get to the seat.
and he's found other people in there.
Okay.
in this corruption-driven bus.
And he's trying to head towards the corruption.
To
which
the
is
driver.
I see.
See the analogy?
Right. Right. Okay. Whatever, man. I just don't understand. So,
By the way,
so what is supposed to happen to this driver?
actually, I like your honesty, Eric. It's important in such matters to admit when you have a certain failing or a weakness.
Completely lost. Yeah.
It's a good-
So after all that.
It's a good
So
sign.
how do you connect that to what's happening?
It's a good sign. In fact, what we can do,
Let's see if Zachary understands it better. Zachary, good morning. Zachary.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Hi,
good
Zachary.
Hi.
Can everyone hear me?
We
can all hear you.
Oh, okay. Now it's been since I talked to you.
Are you well?
I'm well, although I lost my baby.
Hey, we're very sorry to hear that, Zachary.
Paul is son.
Sure, but this, the way we are told that we plant wild seeds, yeah? It's one of those, yeah? But it's still my biological child, yeah?
I'm very sorry to hear that. We are all very sorry to
Paul
hear
is
that,
son.
Zachary.
Oh, thank you. Now, let me start with the proverb, yeah? You asked, you posed why is 9 always used in the other African proverbs, yeah?
Yep.
9 borders 10,
Yeah.
and 10 is seen as a full number or a whole number. There's fullness, there is life in 10, yeah? So 9 is always used to show that you still have got another one step, maybe a last step, yeah? To get to a full life, So I take it that it is used to encourage one to go on, move on. There is still another step,
There's
yeah?
still one more.
Yeah. Now,
So when you say
coming
9
to the
lives, it
COVID,
means that you don't have all 10.
Sure. But you are still encouraged to move, try hard. Wake up and stand up and try to move to make another step, yeah?
All right.
I guess that is the meaning, because even in Kikuyu you have got such references, yeah? Now, coming to the COVID issue, the problem with us Kenyans is that everyone has known that we are very much forgetful, yeah? And I want to remind you people that when the COVID issue came, we added another phrase or vocabulary, or I don't know how you can call it, at your own cost, yeah? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, if Mwalimu was told that, if you go there and you get the COVID and you get this disease, you are going to cater it, you to look at it at your own cost, yeah? And yet the government was collecting more money and the CG fundraising. Now, there is this money that the government is asking, yeah? Or raising, yeah? But then Mwalimu Adro there, I'm using him as an example because he is there, he is there, yeah?
Is there a
Or
sign
even
unit?
me. And I'm told that the more if you go there and you get COVID, you get it at your own cost. Now, what happens to the other money that was being raised by my government? it cannot, it cannot be thrown into a vacuum and stay there. Somebody has to come and remember that, I needed what we call a prime protect somewhere, and therefore I let me take this money because Mwalimu or Zachary has taken care of his disease, yeah? Therefore, I don't know why we are making this noise. And I remember also, Mr. Eric, that when this disease came, yeah, there are some people who are crying more than they believed, yeah? I don't expect me to die, and then Mwalimu or Eric comes to my family to, mourn with my people, and he seems to be crying more than them, yeah? So the lectures that you are getting, the CG violence, the police violence that we witnessed, it was headed to something sinister.
So bottom line, Zachary, what are you saying? With reference to Mutahi Kagwe
Yeah.
and the call for his resignation?
Mutahi Kagwe should not resign.
Okay.
And I'm not defending him because he is from my tribe, yeah? But this is let us remind ourselves that this is the way things go in Kenya, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So this is
Yeah.
just Kenya.
This is Kenya.
Tukubali aishe.
tukubali yaishe na tuendelee.
Thank you, Zachary.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Kubali Aisha, this is Kenya. I mean, this is Africa. This is how things go anyway. So, what's the problem? How should we be complaining, you know?
You know, the thing is, I understand the need to hold people accountable. And I also understand the role of accountability in decision-making process, especially if you're at the very peak of it. I do. But I also understand when a story is developing, there are issues that have happened, and many of them have crowded all at once. This is not a usual, this is what you call a normal situation. There's nothing normal about it. Nothing normal about it. And because there's nothing normal about it, even the manner in which we manage it cannot possibly be normal. Because if we manage it normally, then
So we continue to treat us
abnormally.
John, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you guys?
We're
Fine, thank you.
Yes, very fine. Now you have an interesting. Mutahi should not resign.
Oh, we lost him. Call back, John. Christian, good morning.
Good morning, Latif.
Yes, how are you, Christian?
Fine, thank you. Now, this whole COVID thing, yeah, I think there's no point for Mutai to resign. What needs to happen is the buck stops with the president. He's the one who can stop this thing. He can dismantle the cartels in one day. So this whole story of telling us, CEO is Majanja who and all that, those are the buck stops with the president. He has the government machinery. He has the muscle. He can move in and clear those cartels.
So as a man at the helm of the health ministry,
Yes.
if you see that your boss is not taking action, what should you do?
You're talking now as president?
Now I'm talking as Mutahi Kagwe.
Yes.
If the president does not take any action, what should Mutahi Kagwe do?
Then he should just resign in the event of that. If he tells the president, this is what is going on, this is what I'm facing, and I cannot solve this, I need your help, and you can assist me,
Yep.
then he should just, then he can't do his job.
All
But
right.
there's too much self-preservation in this country where people want to hold on to their jobs and not do the right thing.
There you go.
Because, I mean, Majanja, I don't know if that's the name of the CEO.
Manjari.
He's talking
Manjari.
about Manjari, yeah?
Yeah.
He's talking
Majanja
about,
is a
I
High Court
received-
judge.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Manjari is talking about, I received instructions from Mutai Kagwe or whoever, or
And
PS
the PS.
Mutachi. But is that your job? Are you supposed to take instructions in regards to procurement from the minister? If not, then you're not doing your job.
Right.
You know, there's a little,
You're contradicting.
there's a little
When you're
conundrum
doing your
here.
own thing.
That ministry determines who is on the board of that particular entity, and it is that board who determines who is employed as CEO.
That ministry is your boss.
Yeah, fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is, who is in charge of procurement? Is it the minister? Is it the PS?
This is really the debate
Yeah.
now, isn't
This is where the conundrum comes in.
Yeah. So if your job is it's your responsibility to oversee that procurement. Don't shift blame and say, I received instructions from, because when it gets to court, you're gonna be crucified for what you did.
Yeah. True.
You're not gonna say, I received a call. You'll be asked by the judge or whoever, were you supposed to take instructions in regards to that procurement procedure from Mochachi?
Okay.
And by the book, you're going to say no. So you're going to go to prison. So people, CEOs and heads of parastatals should stop self-preservation. If you can't do your job,
Step aside.
without receiving instructions from anyone, just resign.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much for your
All right,
call this
thanks.
morning.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so we're coming to the end of the show today. CT, just remind us today's proverb. Give it some bus driver, crowded passenger
A
context.
truthful man will soon find himself expelled from the 9 villages. Mutai Kagwe is in the 6th village, and they're trying to expel him out.
And is truthful.
And he's truthful.
All right. All right. Jonah Manjari is already out. He's done all 9.
I don't think everybody has to get to 9.
Right.
It's the,
The
it's the
expulsion
resilient ones who keep moving.
Right. The expulsion
Yes.
can come even at village 1.
Some people get village 1.
You don't go to the next
I
one.
just change the location of your residence.
Or you stop telling the truth.
or you move even from that country.
That's the main one. So thank you very much for tuning in today to The Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and do a call. Your thoughts on this particular issue as we close?
No, it's responsibility, and responsibility never came light. Responsibility comes heavy. You should be able to take it or leave it.
So now?
You can't, if you're not going to be able to say this and this, or this is whom, this is exactly what is happening, some kind of fear there, maybe you weren't cut out for it.
Okay. So basically, unless he's going to tell us the names of them,
If he's going to tell us
that
who
are
it was
fighting
and go
him,
to the heart of the rot, by all means stay. But if not,
pack up, out Naja. All right, so between now and 3 o'clock, you'll have uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique comes to take you home on Spice Drive from 3 to 7. And from 7 to 10, you have the adults in the room. And this is Eric, Emmanuel, and Barbara, the Duchess of Ikolomani. See you again tomorrow. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.